started my journey of higher education in Sri Ram College of Commerce, where I did my economics honors. And then I moved on to do my master's in business administration from Delhi FMS. We were about 55, 60 of us, out of which I think we were only about 5 women. So I think the ratios were completely changing from my undergrad. And then I did something quite different from what normally gets done. I opted to choose finance as my specialization. And then there was, lo and behold, just one of me left as a female representative in the course. Yeah, so that was my introduction to how the whittling down happens and how the narrowing down happens and how the filtering happens. I had good fun, and then joined American Express Bank from the campus. The banking fraternity was actually quite liberal in getting the female participants. However, I chose again a stream which was not liked by too many females, or I don't know what the issue was. I chose to become a trader. I chose to become a currency trader, where I was sitting in the midst of these, 4-letter words crossing all through the room, and there was a lot of cussing and cursing, and that's the way. That was the only way you could be a trader. But I have to tell, and my mother will be pleased with the fact that I actually didn't end up swearing. I mean, I continued to trade as large an amount of yen and as large an amount of USD and as large an amount of any other currency, but I did it without the 4-letter words, and not because I thought it was beneath me or whatever. It's just that it was not. I wasn't brought up like that. So that was my introduction to the big bad corporate world. Started my family 5 years into my work, and then I decided it was completely my choice that I wanted to be with my little one. So I moved away from full-time working, as that time there were not that many options available. Took a year and a half of stayed away, and then came back because couldn't be kept away from the corporate world. But gradually started teaching. I was teaching at Ford School. I was teaching at University Business School in Chandigarh to the MBA students. Used to teach international financial management to them, and then also started an entrepreneurial journey just to make sure that I was in touch with the financial services world as well. I was doing corporate training as well as I was doing recruitment. Moved to Mumbai and got introduced to market research, one area where women were still allowed to keep their time, stay at home and work. Went on from a boutique qualitative firm to actually join the mainstream research firms like Mode, CNS, and in Mumbai I was looking after the banking vertical of AC Nielsen. Started my foray into management consulting, came back to Delhi, and that foray actually got an interesting twist when I started working quite extensively with the social sector. Worked with multiple donors, partners, multilateral firms, and worked across education, worked in health, worked with social marketing companies, and had a great time. Thereon, I joined Deloitte, so it was literally coming back into mainstream working. I joined Deloitte in their strategy and operations team. And then in my last assignment, I was with IMRB as their lead for the financial services practice. And then the midlife crisis happened, as it happens, and the desire was to take, an entrepreneurial journey, where I then started to work with the financial services as a consultant in strategy and consumer solutions. I continue to do that. Another thing which happened to me at that time was a marked shift in my belief that what makes the world go round, while financial expertise is very good and important, but what makes the world go round is the people. So I actually started, with total due respect to all HR practitioners out there, one never thought of this as something which I would have done. But I realized that people really make the story come true. and I went and attended and got myself certified in coaching. Uh, yeah, so I am today, while I do my consulting with the financial services, I do my consulting even with the social sector, where I've actually done some very interesting work with Michael Susan Dell Foundation, with Omidyar. So there are many names where I've done good, satisfying, good quality work. But the work which is taking an interesting turn for me is my coaching. And to consolidate, you can see that the maverick streak is very clearly visible throughout. I decided to, a year back, take the most uh, dangerous leap in my life. I started doing my PhD. Yes. So I am now back into student life as well. And I'm doing my PhD in leadership. I'm doing my PhD in agile leadership because eventually I am looking to see if I can specialize in becoming an enterprise agility coach. Loving it, hating it, going through it, but it's a journey that I have embarked upon, and I do hope to finish it. So that's about me. That's what I do and I have done in the past. I think it's been a beautiful journey. It's like I was sharing with you. If I was to draw a tapestry out of it, it would be a very colorful tapestry with many different colors of the warps and wefts and many different textures. But I like the carpet. I like the tapestry that's coming out of it. And happy to have walked that journey. And yes, in a good place. And I hope I don't retire. Yes, the world completely came topsy turvy. The world completely changed for all of us. There's no two ways on that. And I'd like to speak not just for the financial services. I'd actually like to make my observations about organizations and industries at an overall level. Because that's a canvas that one is working with and looking at. So yeah, I think the biggest trend that we have seen now over the years, and which I think somewhere got kind of escalated and culminated with 2020, is technology is pervasive. That goes without saying. But that technology is creating a kind of interconnectedness. The world. I mean, borrowing from Thomas Friedman, who said that the world is flat. I think it's only getting flatter. And just to share, my children sitting in Delhi are watching the same web series that their cousins are watching in America. They're listening to the same music that Spotify has to offer all across the world. They have conversations with Alexa at the same level and comfort that, like I said, their global counterparts are having. So there is a sense of interconnectedness where information is traveling and actually no time lost. There's no speed to it. It's like instantaneous. And that is somewhere completely taking down the hierarchies which existed, the information asymmetry which existed earlier, which somewhere got capitalized by many of us into our professional expertise, into our areas of strength, is completely giving way. And I think it's getting depth, instead of the asymmetry, we're actually seeing complete democratization of information. So today, everybody has information, the same information on hand, and that has become a huge leveler. And this VUCA world, I mean, it's getting driven by global warming, it's getting by the climate change, by today we have this, I think, a fear of continuing pandemics. This is probably the beginning, right? So I think somewhere that fear is something that we will live with. Like I said, technology has anyway been a leveler. There is bio-terrorism that we're talking about. So this actually has completely also shaken up the organizations, and they have come to kind of understand that the predictability and the standardization that they were earlier working with is no longer actually something that's going to happen. It's not a reality that they can work with. Another trend which is happening is actually automation. Today, you are seeing AI has pretty much started to pervade a lot of segments in our lives. It's doing definitely the rounds in financial services. It's doing the rounds everywhere. And I think somewhere we will continually, uh, as human beings, learn to cope with AI and automation side by side. This automation, this technology, this information asymmetry getting disappeared has also actually brought down the barriers of entry for a lot of players. So today, if I want to grow, actually, it's not capital which is my scarce resource. It's people, it's the idea, and then it's the people. And I think somewhere that's the reason where I also believe that if one can actually reach out to people and somewhere play a role in making them see things differently through the coaching journey is something which I think is going to play a very important part. Human beings will continue to play a very important part, but I think a completely revised and a relooked version of how we will behave, how actually we will be. And as a result of all of this, actually what we are seeing is that there is a paradigm societal shift that is happening. If you see, people today are looking at working with organizations which have a genuine purpose. People are willing to pay higher if they feel there is, so, we have this ESG, which is the, what am I doing for the environment? What am I doing for the society? How is the governance? So all of that has actually come to play a big role. People, because there is a democratization, people actually have become, a lot of people have become very ambitious. People are now, today, nobody wants to be held back. And why should they? Right? So there is this ambition and there is this impatience that I want things as of yesterday. So actually the entire society is today positioned in a very different way. They're seeing themselves in a very different way. So those are the trends which actually have also gone on to have a very, very serious impact on the organization. So organizations, if I go into 1983, if I look at the S&P list, if I, I think only 10% of those companies which were there in 1983, the non-financial ones, only about 10% of them would be there in 2013. Of course, we're now to 2021, and that analysis I haven't done, but I'm just saying that that's the kind of quick changing sands that we are working with today. So it's having a huge impact on the organizational world, and I think the way the organizations, basically they've realized they cannot exist the way they did earlier. So be it financial services, be it any other industry, they're all recognizing the need to rethink, go back to the drawing board and completely have a rethink of how they work, how they deliver, what is the core purpose that we are working with. So it's why do I exist? The raison d'etre of my existence has to be very clearly defined, and I think somewhere aligned with the good of all and good for all. So the core purposes have to be redefined, the value systems have to be redefined, and then the way of working, how we work. I think today decision making is getting turbocharged. Everybody it's got to change. The way we work, it's no longer a hierarchical structure that we can work with. We actually are looking to work not as a top-down mechanistic way, but actually work in a more collaborative way. So we're talking about distributed leadership. We're talking about working from the edge of chaos. We're saying that if I have to work from the edge of chaos, that means my last mile, my person, my organization employee who's at the last mile, who's working at the edge, actually needs to be empowered, which is actually my front line. Which means I need to be as a leader, be empowering them to take the decisions, come back, collaborate to the strategic decision making, and so it's a completely different way of working. We are leaner, meaner, and actually more empowered. That's the way we will grow. And then the third change is how we will grow. I think shareholder value is something that we work with. Value adds and everything was all from the perspective of shareholders. Today, also a lot of organizations, unfortunately, continue to do that at their own peril, where the interest of the shareholder is sitting at the center, when we actually need to move on to becoming more integrative and actually look at the stakeholders. And with that stakeholder, it comes in my employee, and at the center, of course, of it all is the consumer, who's driving it all, and there is the environment, there is the society. So it's now, it's not words. I cannot be led by my financial results alone, which get declared. I need to make sure that my entire stakeholder gambit, entire range of people who I connect up with or have in any way any effect with, their interests are taken care of. So I think that entire reorganization is taking place not just in the financial services, it's happening across board in all organizations. I'm just going to borrow a term from the BCG, where they call the bionic organization, which is really a combination of technology with human capabilities. And that's where we get growth, and that's where we build efficiencies, and that's where we get innovation. So that's the new world for us. I just happened to watch this very brilliant message that came from, that was doing the rounds on WhatsApp, which was Vidya Balan talking about a recipe for an empowered woman. And so she keeps tossing things out. And so she says, okay, so it's definitely, okay, not necessarily to be an empowered woman do I need to be smoking. Not necessarily do I need to be drinking. Not necessarily do I want to be wearing a little black dress. Not necessarily do I want to be wearing a red lipstick. Not necessarily do I want to be the boss lady in an office. So there are a lot of not necessaries that I need to be. So what is this unique recipe, it seems, that can create an empowered woman? And she ends it by saying that actually there is no unique recipe for creating an empowered woman, because empowered women come in so many shapes and forms. There is no one avatar of an empowered woman. It is the only underlying thing is that I choose to do what I want to do. And I need to take that belief that I can do it. If I go with that belief that I can do it, I think it's something which will create, I think, the Nari Shakti as we know of it in our ancient lineage that we carry, is something that needs to be rekindled with the faith that whatever I decide to do, I can do it. And it doesn't have to come at the cost of anybody. It doesn't have to conform to any structures and forms. It's my choice, the way I want to do it. And I thought that was actually quite beautifully capturing the essence of what true empowerment is. So I think that if we can start with that belief, it's a great starting point. When you talk of women leadership, so this is something which has kind of been discussed in across now this last 2-3 decades have seen a lot of conversations that have happened, and we've seen some great women leaders as well. And I'm just going with the tagline where women can have it all or cannot have it all. That's one of the debates that is going around, and we have somebody who I really look up to, Indra Nooyi, saying that it's not easy, it's not possible to have it all for anybody. So how is it going to be possible for a woman to have it all? And we have somebody of equal stature, Michelle Obama, who endorses that view that it's not possible for a woman to have it all. And then we have Sheryl Sandberg, of Facebook who believes that if we work at it, we can actually pretty much have it all. There is this kind of debate that's raging, and I circle back to what I just said about Vidya Balan, that it is, I think, to each to his own. Yes, you cannot have it all one go. I chose to give up my regular career, be with my kids, but I also chose to come back in different avatars, whichever avatar I could. And today I enjoy back again a full-fledged career. So it's you can have it all at the pace you want to do it, at the sequence in the chronological order that you want to do it. Just believe that you can do it, and I think that in itself, if you can believe that you can do it, then you will make it happen. Well, in terms of women leaders, the other thing which I have observed is that a lot of us hold back. I do think a lot of us need to be out there, and not because we need to be out there, as in because it's the done thing, but it's because we want to be out there. Let's not hold ourselves back from doing multiple things just because it was not done before, right? So let's go ahead and do it. Let's break the barriers. But at the same time, I'm somebody who's very convinced in my mind that you do not have to be conforming to a stereotype that earlier existed. So I don't need to be like a male leader to be effective, to be seen as somebody who's hopefully making a difference and an impact. Earlier, I've seen a lot of women leaders who would behave in a fashion which was kind of mirroring how the men would behave in a fashion which was kind of mirroring how the men would behave. I don't know whether you've seen, and I've been watching this web series called Madam Secretary. And if you haven't, you must watch it. It's quite interesting, well done. It's about a woman who's a Secretary of State in America. The kind of point of view that she brings, it's not like any kind of a male chauvinist attitude. She comes with a resolution mindset. She's looking at resolving a problem, looking at multiple dimensions, and with the least damage. So it's very heartening to see somebody, and fortunately in that case, the POTUS, the US president, is more than taken in by her recommendations. I think we need more. I do definitely think that we need more women out there who become the role models, who tell the world out there that it's okay to be a woman, it's okay to be worried about your children, it's okay to be worried about your family, and yet be responsible for what you're responsible for and do a great job of it. And I'd like to actually close by saying, Farzeen, that as women, we have to start cheering for each other. We need to start looking out for each other. We need to start creating a support system for each other. Not at an unfair basis, but at least give an equal opportunity to women, and not, sometimes we unfortunately don't even realize the biases we can come up with. So just because we expect the woman to be maybe taking some time off or whatever, we kind of hold back on opportunities. And as a person who's been a part of this corporate world, I think it's only fair that we give all of us a fair and equal chance to run on the same runway as everybody does. And I'd like to actually close out. I thought I quite liked what I had read. This is a quote from Serena Williams, and she says that success of every woman should be an inspiration to another. We are strongest when we cheer each other on. And I think that's the message I want to leave for all of us, for you young women leaders, and the many who are following you, is just believe in yourself. Go out there and do what you think you want to do, and cheer for your own good.